So I just saw the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that being Captain Marvel, this past weekend, and it was just boring. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm not a huge fan of Captain Marvel. Now, to be fair, it was definitely better than all the controversies and everything else would make you think it would be, but that's not really saying much. I'll get into more detail when I do a review on it, if I ever get around to doing another one of those, but for now, let's talk about one of my favorite parts of the movie. The mid and post-credit scenes. Seriously, even if you absolutely hated this movie, you gotta admit that both of those scenes were at least somewhat interesting. I mean, one of them ties into Avengers Endgame, and the other one features a cat. Who doesn't like watching something with a cat in it?
I hate cats.
So let's not waste any more time here. Let's break down both the mid and post-credit scenes for Captain Marvel. Before I do though, I just want to quickly point out that obviously there's going to be some major spoilers for the movie in this video, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, you should probably click off this video and watch something else. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's kick things off with the mid-credit scene. This one starts off with a shot of Nick Fury's pager, still beeping and sending a signal to Carol Danvers like we saw at the end of the Avengers Infinity War post-credit scene. Suddenly though, it just shuts off for seemingly no reason, which alerts the remaining Avengers in the room at the time, including Captain America, Black Widow, War Machine, and Bruce Banner. Cap tells the Avengers to try rebooting the pager, with both him and Black Widow agreeing that the pager is important and that they need to figure out exactly who the pager was trying to reach. Black Widow eventually turns to leave, and we see Carol suddenly standing in front of her, sporting a brand new haircut and some new details on her uniform, asking, "Where's Fury?" And that's pretty much it. That's where the scene ends. So, okay, there's a few things to unpack here. Given how we see that Cap still has that on-the-run beard, unlike the look he's sporting in both the Endgame trailer and the Super Bowl TV spot, and how the not-so-spangly-looking Avenger mentions that the team bypassed the pager's battery to keep it transmitting longer than it should have, and how the Avengers are still trying to get all the data on everybody who got dusted during the decimation, it seems pretty clear that this scene happened sometime after Infinity War, but I'm not entirely sure when exactly that might be. Could be a couple of days, a week, a month, maybe even a year. But since you can see how the casualties and missing persons data is still pouring in, and you'd think Cap would have to shave at some point, I'd imagine this happens pretty soon after Infinity War. Either way, I'm not entirely sure how the Avengers would have wound up with the pager, or how they even knew about it in the first place, considering how they were in Wakanda while everybody was getting dusted, and Fury was riding around all the way over in New York. I guess he could have called and told them about who he was trying to reach out to, but even if Fury was the kind of guy who would just let the Avengers in on all of his plans, which I think the rest of the MCU pretty firmly established he's not.
It's called compartmentalization. Nobody spills the secrets because nobody knows them all.
I'd imagine it'd be a tad bit hard for him to call anybody at the moment, so instead, I'm guessing that the remaining Avengers took the time to travel up from Wakanda to New York looking for some SHIELD backup, or considering how Cap acknowledges that they knew the pager specifically belonged to Fury, it's possible they were trying to just track Fury's location and find him, which would eventually lead them to the pager. And like I mentioned earlier, this scene also features Captain Marvel with a slightly changed look, including longer hair and some extra gold pieces on her uniform. So clearly Carol's had time to mess around with her look in the 20 plus years since she got her powers, but interestingly, she hasn't aged a day. Wonder why that is. We already know those time travel powers Sam Jackson said she has aren't actually a thing.
Does Captain Marvel time travel? No, I don't time travel.
So is it just because she got her powers from the Tesseract? Maybe even because she has Kree blood now? Who knows? Either way, fun fact, it seems like this is the first time she's been back on Earth for some time. Which seems weird when you consider that she literally gave Fury that pager specifically to call her in case of emergencies. What, an invading army of aliens or robots don't count as emergencies anymore? Well, no, according to Sam Jackson anyway.
She said only in emergencies. The other emergencies could be handled by the people who were present. It's just an alien invasion. That's something that can be handled. I mean, half the population wasn't dying and flaking off and doing whatever. We finally have an emergency that I feel warrants her presence.
Honestly, that makes way more sense than Kevin Feige hinting that Fury did use the pager at some point and Carol just didn't respond to it for whatever reason. Yeah, I know other planets don't have Avengers, but she could have at least popped up on Earth once in a while to see how things were going. Anyways, moving on, there's the post-credit scene. This one starts with a shot of Nick Fury's desk at SHIELD HQ, nothing too crazy at first, but eventually we see Goose, that adorable cat who you might remember everybody calling the best part of the whole movie at one point in time, jumping up on Fury's desk before starting to heave. After a few disgusting seconds of listening to an incredibly fake-looking cat trying to cough something up, it eventually manages to spit out a very slimy, yet completely unscratched, Tesseract.
Ugh, gross.
So yeah, unlike the Endgame related mid-credit scene, this one doesn't really have as much to break down, but we do have some things we can work out, like trying to piece together a timeline for the Tesseract. Remember, it started off being an Infinity Stone locked away on Asgard by Odin, who eventually dropped it off in Norway for some reason, where it was later found and used by the Red Skull throughout World War II. Of course, it winds up sending him to Vormir and falls into the ocean, where it was eventually picked up by Howard Stark towards the end of the war and studied by Howard for an undetermined amount of time. It eventually wound up being studied by a disguised Mar-Vell over at Project Pegasus, and a few years after she dies, Carol and her friends hop aboard Mar-Vell's lab and, using Goose to safely carry it, bring the Tesseract back to Project Pegasus on Earth, where it's eventually stolen by Loki, and you all pretty much know how it goes from there. Now, as for how Goose could spit up or even hold on to the Tesseract without exploding like everybody else who ever held an Infinity Stone, well, that's because Goose is what's known as a Flurkin. Long story short, a Flurkin is an alien that looks and acts like a normal cat, for some reason, with the exception of also having a bunch of pocket universes inside it. These universes can hold pretty much anything, including creatures and objects the alien decides to eat, stuff like that. And when trying to figure out how to carry the Tesseract without actually touching it, Goose eventually unleashes her crazy face tentacles, as all Flurkins have, and swallows the Infinity Stone whole. Seriously, a pocket dimension inside of a cat turned out to be a great hiding spot, since even the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't even able to figure out where it went. Then again, they were full of Hydra agents, so maybe it's a good thing Fury never told them he was keeping an alien in his office. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I noticed in the mid and post-credit scenes in Captain Marvel. Neither one of them are really required to understand what all's going on in Avengers Endgame, unlike what a lot of people were reporting not too long ago, but there's still some fun stuff in both of them. But anyways guys, if you agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, or you maybe noticed something I didn't, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.